Well, hello, I'm Donna, and this is my simple retirement journey. And thank you for stopping by today. This is my sixth channel. My sixth channel. Here we go already. This is my sixth video. And my last video, I talked about living on mostly Social Security. And I got 700 views in the last week, and I am so thrilled. My other videos, I was getting around 50, 55 views. So whatever I said last week really clicked with people, and I am just so excited to have this last video go so well. It might be a one-hit wonder, we don't know, but I do appreciate you taking the time to watch me. And I was kind of struggling what to talk about this week, and last night I had trouble falling asleep. So I have this every once in a while. I just can't fall asleep, and I'm too tired to get up, and my mind keeps wandering. So I dug out my cell phone, and I read a lot of ebooks online through the library. So I decided to read a book for a while. And then I thought, aha! Last week I talked about one of the things I enjoyed was reading books. So this morning I took some short clips of my stash of books around my house. And I discovered I truly do read a lot, or I have read a lot. And I have to say, as a child, I was a bookworm. I wasn't one to go outside and play. I had two brothers, and the last thing I wanted to do was hang out with them. They were too rowdy for me. So I remember growing up, I loved reading the Bobbsey twin books, and I remember back in the day, they were $1.25. Can you imagine paying $1.25 for a hardbook book today? So I would save up my pennies, and probably mostly pennies back then, and I would get a new Bobbsey twin book. And then I lost my train of thought. And then when I was still in elementary school, we had a library in our school, and I remember loving to read biographies of presidents and famous people. Of course, they were geared to fifth, sixth graders. And I also enjoyed reading stories about living on a space station out in outer space. And that was one thing I wanted to do when I grew up. And obviously, I never did that. I would be claustrophobic, and I would miss my family now. So I stay grounded here in Indiana. And so on my bookshelves, I have a collection of books that my grandmother had when she was growing up, and it's called Elsie Dinsmore. And it covers her life from the age of 8 until 80 years old. And I think there's about 40 books. And they're sentimental more than anything because they were my grandmother's. And it was my shirt's all out of cricket. They're sentimental mainly because they're my grandmother's books. My grandmother growing up, they were probably upper middle class, so she had this collection of books, and I've enjoyed reading them when I was younger. And I will have to admit, I'm ashamed to admit now, the books are Christian based, and that there's a lot of scripture in the books. And when I was growing up, I would skip over the scripture and get to the rest of the story. And the reason I'm talking about this is it's a sentimental value. My daughter never read them, and I doubt my grandchildren will ever read them. And I don't know what to do with them. They're old. I'm trying to downsize some of my clutter, which I have. And I just can't seem to bear getting rid of them, but I'm going to have to make a decision someday. And they're sitting on my bookshelf in my bedroom, which you will see in a little bit. What else do I have in there? I enjoyed reading the Little House on the Prairie books. My grandfather was sick in his later years, and he would read them first, and then I'd read them. And when I was giving you the tour of my bookshelves, I think I mentioned that. And over the years, I've never been much of a mystery reader. I can never figure out the mystery, the whodunit things. And I like stories that are family-based, I guess, like Little House on the Prairie kind of books. I enjoy historical fiction and just G-rated fiction. I don't want to have blood and gore and sex and that kind of stuff. I am looking for a book I was going to talk about. Let me go get it. Found the book. It was under my notes, right where it belonged. When I retired full-time from my full-time job 4 years ago, I knew I had to cut back on spending frivolous things like books. So I saw this book at Barnes & Noble, and it's called My Wild Garden, Notes from a Writer's Eden. And the author is Meir Shalev. He lives in Israel, so I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly. But I enjoy gardening, and what drew me to the book is there's a lot of hand-drawn illustrations of flowers. And I saw this book at Barnes & Noble's, and I just had to have it, but I knew I would get money for my birthday, so I waited till my birthday to buy the book. And when I looked at the book, it was the preface. He lives overlooking a valley somewhere in Israel, and he has an extensive flower gardens. And one day he looked out, and there was this bridal party stomping all over his plants. And they were taking pictures of the new bride and groom overlooking the valley. It was a beautiful sight, but they were stomping all over his plants. So he goes out there and he says, "Excuse me." He goes, "You know, this is private property, and you're walking on my plants." And I believe it was the mother of the groom said, "Well, this is my son's wedding, and we want to take pictures here." So he thinks for a minute, and then he goes, "Well," he said, "I know your family's all dressed up, and you've got this nice, expensive camera photography things. And I have an automatic watering system, and the sprinklers will be coming on in 10 minutes. So they all ran away. And the last sentence said, "Of course, I really don't have an automatic watering system." So reading that preface, I decided I had to buy the book. And it was an enjoyable book to read. It talked about plants, and I learned a little bit about the climate in Israel, and it was just a good book to read. And this kind of brings me to my reading habits these days. When I got divorced in my mid-30s, I went back to college, got a degree in accounting, and my joy of reading switched over to textbooks. They're not so much fun, but I've kind of lost the joy of reading, and I'm trying to get back into it again. And one other thing, as we age, we transition into bifocals, and my eye doctor talked me into the no-line bifocals, and I hated them. I think I had 3 or 4 pair of the no-line bifocals. And I discovered when I was reading, I had to turn my head all the time because the view portion got kind of blurry at the edge. So I got out of the habit of reading. And then when I graduated to trifocals, I began reading again. So I'm glad I did this. And I'm going to give you a tour of my house. I have quite a few bookshelves. Some are hidden away, which you will find out. and somewhere out in public, and like in the living room. And the last thing I wanted to talk about this morning is reading ebooks versus reading the hard copy books. And books like these, I would probably never ever read an ebook because it's colorful and it's kind of a reference book too. But I've discovered reading an ebook is fine if you want to read a novel, or I enjoy reading biographies even as an adult. And they're probably the type of book that you'll only ever read once and never read it again. And I have over the years, if I really, really like a book, I will go out and buy it. And I've talked to friends over the years, and even younger people say that there really is a difference between reading a book on an electronic device versus reading a hard copy book. And I am leaning back towards the hard copy books. Again, if it's just a fun read, I will read the electronic book. But if it's more of a reference, deeper book, I will purchase the hard copy book. So anyways, I am going to give you a little journey through parts of my house, talking about my bookshelves, and I hope you enjoy the journey. And if any of you have a favorite book or genre you like to read, I'd love to hear what you have to say. And thank you for watching. I'm excited to see my channel grow a little bit. And if you like what you see, please subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Bye. I edited my video and I talked for 12 minutes, and then I went through all the books that I had, and that was probably another 10 or 12 minutes. And I didn't want to bore everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end what I talked about, and this is going to be part 1, and then I will have a second video, part 2 of all the books I have. So hopefully you will stick around for part 2, since it's a book talk. It's a series. So hope to see you again soon. Bye.